Alright, we're here to make another video. This time we haven't done a top 5 for a while, and I know you guys have missed them, and you really want more. And so we decided to do our top 5 books of all time. Now with me I have my wonderful wife,
Jennifer
Giles. She's amazing.
Thanks.
And my wonderful son here, Tucker Fish.
Hi.
And that's it. Okay, so we are going to go through our top 5 books, our top 5, these two are kind of hard because it's kind of at the moment top 5 favorites. Mine are like my all-time top favorites. Theirs are interchangeable at different times. But
No, only one of mine might bounce out of the list. The other 4 are like hard and
they're
fast.
solidified?
Yes.
Okay. And you're still young and haven't read many books, so.
Hey, I've read a lot of books.
Have you read Frankenstein?
Yes.
Obviously you haven't, because it's not up there. Okay, so we're going to start with our number 5 favorite book. So we're starting from least favorite to favorite. So you want to start us off with your number 5?
Sure.
Tell us about it.
Mine is called The Lost Code. It's about a group of kids who find out they're descended from Atlanteans, and so they're trying to figure out their powers and abilities. Kind of works like the X-Men. They're kind of mutant-like. And then there's a government agency hunting them down because they want to get into Atlantis. And it's just an interesting take on a lot of mythology and things in a kind of a Percy Jackson-esque style, but a different realm of existence.
Who is the writer?
Kevin Emerson. He's a former biology teacher turned author and rock musician.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, remember when you state your book and the author.
All right.
Any pertinent information you have about that kind of thing. It helps the viewer.
Cool.
Your
Yes.
number 5?
All right. My number 5 is not because it's trending right now on Stars with the TV series. I haven't seen all of it. Couldn't tell you. I actually read the book about 20 years ago and then reread it. It is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Now, it is definitely one of those books that you've got to be committed to, whether it's the content you're reading because there is a lot of history in it, or some of the writing might make you raise your eyebrows. Definitely make you raise your eyebrows.
And they are pretty thick books.
They are huge. They are, even the smaller books are over 1,000 pages. And it's fine print. So if you get the hardbound one, it feels like a dictionary. They're huge and heavy. But what was interesting about it is the fact that there is so much Scottish history put into it. But the books center around time travel. So you also have a lot about Europe during World War II. So it bounces between the two quite a bit. While the story is complete fiction, the historical accounts are fact. So it's really interesting, and oftentimes there will be excerpts from letters or military communications that are verbatim, that have been found in archives or museums. So it's interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's the one that may or may not stay on my list. It was just, at the time of this, I was like, I reread it. Oops.
And you might replace it with a Cat in the Hat or something like that.
That she picked out to somebody, Sally and me.
All right, so my number 5, interesting story here because it was really the first novel that I ever read, and I was young. And I have an English degree, and I didn't start reading until I was 16. Yeah.
Well, not the ability to
not
read.
the ability to read.
Desire to read.
I never learned to read. No, I didn't start reading just for enjoyment's sake until I was 16. And I read stuff that I had to. And the book is The Drawing of the Three, which is the 3rd book of the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I learned to love Stephen King's writing reading this book. In fact, I kind of pattern a lot of what I do after Stephen King, but I don't pattern a lot of things after him.
You mean foul language and downright porn?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Stephen King is an amazing writer, and he captivates you, and he enthralls you. I mean, it is an amazing book to read. Any of the Stephen King books. I mean, he will go down in history as one of the best writers ever. But unfortunately, he also is a very, what would you call
Vulgar.
it?
He's just
He's
vulgar.
vulgar, and he'll be going along so beautifully and almost poetically, and then it will turn into slut. I mean, smut. It is just like
Slut.
smut. It is just like it is horrible, profane, horrible stuff. And then he gets back to normal, and you're like, what did I just read?
Yeah.
But the stuff that's not that way, he is amazing. Just absolutely fantastic. So that's my number 5. Number 4.
My number 4 is the 13th Reality, the first book in the series, The Journal of Curious Letters, by James Dashner, who's a really cool guy. He does a lot of school trips and things. Not right now, though.
Right.
But that was one of the first books where I had to do homework with it. During the course of the book, the main character, Atticus, is getting these letters, and they're all riddles. And you can just go along with the story, read it, watch, or, watch him, in your mind, I guess. Watch him figure it out. But you can also figure out the puzzle yourself. And there's lots of twists and turns and things that, it seems like normal riddles. The first one is, I believe, the time and place of the event that takes place later in the book. And it seems simple enough, but it's one of those, on the day after 2 weeks forward, but a fortnight back, and all this back and forth. And it ends up being really simple answer to a really complex question. And so I took the hard route, and somewhere I've got a notebook with all the riddles and the answers, and there's a lot of crumpled pages because I got it wrong a few times, but it was really fun because while the characters were figuring it out, I was figuring it out too. They figured it out first, but oh well.
So it really made you think.
Yeah, it really made me think.
That's cool.
So big props to James Dashner for making me want to do homework.
Very nice.
I feel bad I never bought you a barf scarf. Read the book, you'll understand.
Okay, you're number 4.
My number 4, George Orwell's 1984, a novel. So, 1984 was a heavy read for an 11-year-old, but I read it and understood quite a bit of it. And then I reread it in 7th or 8th grade just because I wanted to. It was intriguing enough the first time. And where it actually came about that I would have picked it up, we had a teacher in, I want to say it was 5th grade, and she was working on her doctorate in English literature. And she would read us examples of a genre. So small excerpts from things. And she was explaining satire and read us a section of 1984. And by a section, I mean maybe 3 pages long. Just a small experience that the main character goes through. And it really caught my attention. So I read through it. And what's interesting about 1984, and the reason I laugh with a wee bit of chagrin, is it was written in 1949 as a satire, but it's a dystopian society, so almost not post-apocalyptic, but it feels like it in how austere things are. But it really centers on government overreaching, totalitarianism, manipulation between facts and opinions, and its effect on society as a whole. So if you are aware of what life in crazy 2020 has been like, especially on the political and psychosocial front, it would probably do a lot of people good to read 1984 by George Orwell. And that's all I'm going to say on that one right now.
So that's your homework.
That's
Go
your
read
homework.
That book.
Go read 1980. Even Spark Notes on it would do you good.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 4 is Famine of the Opera. Who wrote Famine of the Opera?
It's up there. Well, I will look that up while you talk about it.
I forgot his name. Okay,
It's French, isn't it?
Yeah, I have an excuse, because my brain doesn't remember things the way it should, because, yeah.
Yeah. Because MS and stuff.
Yeah.
So, Famine of the Opera. And the reason I love this book is because one day I grabbed this book and I just sat on my bed. We were living in Provo, and I just sat on my bed and I read it from cover to cover. And it kept me. And it is the only novel that I've read that actually brought me to tears. I had sympathy for, what's his bucket?
The Phantom?
No, yeah, for the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird because, I mean, there was actual sympathy for him, even though he was horrible.
Yeah.
And murderous. The writer
Murderous
did
and
such a
covetous.
good job of portraying those emotions and making you feel what he's feeling, even if maybe it wasn't really warranted and not good, but it actually brought me to tears. And so it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So it's one I would definitely suggest people read. Did we find out who wrote it?
Yeah, Gaston Leroux.
Yeah, that guy.
And it is a French novel that has been translated into English, but there is a lot of French terminology in there that if you don't speak French, like most of us don't, you can look things up. But a lot of it is locations and the names of individuals.
Yeah, so excellent book. Everybody should read it. It's fantastic.
It is great.
Number 3.
All right, mine is Michael Crichton's Pirate Latitudes. It's one of the first ones that was written, or finished being written after he died. They used his editors and some sort of algorithm that analyzed his other works to finish the story. So who knows what he might have written, but the ending they did was pretty good. It's set in a Pirates of the Caribbean type setting. It's a heist novel. It's a pirate, buccaneer-esque character who's trying to straighten out his life, who decides, I'm going to go pirate again. And so he gets the gang back together, and they decide to rob the most fortified Spanish garrison in the Caribbean. And it's one that the book's rooted in history, and the fortress is actually one of those that they built like a star, because a triangle's the strongest shape, so cannons and anything else wouldn't penetrate it, so you really couldn't get in. And at the moment I can't remember how they did it, but it was really, really inventive. I never would have thought that that's something you would see in a pirate novel, but they did it, and it was interesting seeing a more fleshed out narrative of pirates, because Pirates of the Caribbean, it's more loose and fun, but this got more into the nitty-gritty, more real for what it would have been like, and maybe a little bit more dark. I mean, there's a couple villains that are definitely a bit twisted on the inside, but yeah, it was cool. Plus it's Michael Crichton, so everything's a little bit askew sometimes, but it was a good one.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice.
Your number 3?
The Witch of Blackbird Pond by, Elizabeth George Spear. Took me a second. Sorry. So when it comes to children's literature, and the next 3 books on my list are children's literature, it's by far my favorite genre. Not like preschool books, although there are lots of really cute ones. When children's literature books are published, there is a committee that reviews them for the Newbery Medal. Now, Arthur C. Newbery, I think? Mm-hmm. The Newbery Medals, there's always a silver and a gold that are awarded every year. And therefore, excellence in children's literature. It may be the story, whether it sheds light on something historically accurate. It may be that the level of it is so captivating and wide-reaching that they feel it will encourage quite a few children to read it. Or it could be an accurate portrayal of a specific moment in history, or even the thoughts and feelings that the book can evoke. So again, they are children's lit, so while the themes can be mature in that they deal with sometimes death or poverty or challenges of that kind, they are not smutty. So unlike Crichton and especially Stephen King and Gabaldon. So The Witch of Blackbird Pond was the gold medal winner for its publication year. I don't remember which year that was. And it focuses on a young woman who comes to Puritan colonial America from the Caribbean. So she's English heritage, but was raised in the West Indies. And she's definitely an odd duck. She does not fit in with the Puritan society. It's completely opposite of how she was raised. And there is a Quaker woman who lives down at Blackbird Pond, and she has been branded as a witch because she is different and would not change her religious viewpoints. So she was shunned, and through a series of events, the young woman who traveled from the West Indies ends up down by Blackbird Pond, and the witch Hannah Tupper comes across Catherine, and they strike up a friendship, which allows you, through their eyes, to see the world from a different viewpoint, but also really teaches themes of unconditional love and maturity. And no matter how many times I've read the book, because I've been reading it since 4th grade, maybe 3rd grade, I've never stopped loving the book. It's a fun read.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You have a thought, you can always inject.
Okay.
Just letting you know.
You mean interject?
Nope, inject. Like, inject it.
Like drawback, burp, stab? Okay.
Sure. Alright, so my number 3 book, while I was getting my degree, I had to read a whole bunch of different novels and stuff. There was a few of them that I absolutely loved. This one obviously is one of my favorites. It's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And the reason I love it is how descriptive, how amazing a writer she was. You could see and feel what was going on in that book. The writers back, before the days of television, of movies, that kind of thing, had to be so descriptive and so entertaining, because that was the entertainment then. That was the movies, that was the television, that was entertainment, other than live plays.
Well, even then, those didn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
Those were for the aristocracy.
But the thing that I love about Frankenstein is, and not only is it just so well written, it is just amazing. It's an amazing story, amazing concept. I've talked about it before. I won't go into it again. But, it was written by a 17-year-old girl. A group of writers were in a house during a thunderstorm telling ghost stories to each other. She told the story to them, and they all said, "You need to write this." And so she wrote it down, and it became the hit that it is.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely an amazing story. It's one that everybody should read. I think it should be mandatory reading across the world.
Wasn't it published under her brother's name or something because a publisher wouldn't take a female writer?
I don't remember that part. That sounds
It could
right.
be.
I don't know if that was that or if that was Jane Austen's first book.
It was one of
It
them.
could have been.
But I don't remember. But
Yeah.
anyway, Frankenstein, read it. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing book.
Mm-hmm.
And get away from the stereotypes that Hollywood has put on Frankenstein. There's Frankenstein, remember, is the doctor, not the creature. And he is not a lumbering idiot. He is a very intelligent, very agile, very capable creation that was just thrown into misery because he was created and then forgot about. And it's amazing. Just absolutely amazing book. So, your number 2.
My number 2 is Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code. And like a couple of the others, it just got lots of history, some mythology, lots of facts and things that in this story get a different perspective to look at them. It's about the couple of different orders. One's the Priory of Sion and one's Opus Dei. Opus Dei is trying to protect the world from the fact that A, Christ got married, and B, had a child. And the Priory of Sion is trying to reveal that truth to the world. And it takes a lot of the things that we know and take for granted, both inside the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and without, and just takes a different look at them. Not saying it's true, not saying it's false, but, lots of opinions on it.
There is a lot of fiction put in.
Yes,
It is not
yes.
a historical novel.
I know.
Yeah.
They do take things from history, but it
Yeah.
is
Fiction.
fiction.
Elements of history
not
woven into a
fact.
story.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it's cool.
The philosophies of man mingled with scripture.
There you go. That's what I'm
It
trying
made
to
a
say.
lot of money. Okay.
Yeah, it made a lot of
And
money.
money's where it's at. All right, you're gonna get number 2.
Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery.
Very nice.
So, Victorian era Canadian author. So, lots of people are familiar with Anne of Green Gables, whether it's the movies that were shot in Canada back in the 80s, starring Megan Follows, or if it's the
That was so good.
Chronicles of Avonlea, which I watched like 2 episodes, couldn't stand it. And then now there's the Anne with an E series on Netflix. I watched 1 episode. It was egregiously incorrect, and they bring themes in that absolutely do not exist in the books. I mean, no. And I was not okay, so I refused
Doesn't
to watch
it make
it.
you mad when they do that?
Yes, I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
why would they put filthy jokes in an Anne of Green Gables story?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that offends me. It is a children's literature book with a 14-year-old reading level because, as you were saying earlier, television didn't exist. So there was not this instant gratification of a story where you could just zone out and sort of keep up. Words painted pictures. One of the most descriptive authors I've ever read is L.M. Montgomery. She's written several books. The Anne series is actually 8 books, not counting the Chronicles of Avonlea, which tell other stories, but still have some of the same characters, just obviously not Anne. What I love about Anne of Green Gables is, for those who have lived under a rock and don't know the story, no offense if that's you, she's a redheaded orphan who gets bounced around from orphanage to orphanage, and the only time she ever gets pulled out, not to be adopted, but to be used as a servant. So to raise children, clean houses, and then when families are done with her, they send her back to the orphanage. So she's never actually adopted, she's just used and abused. Horribly at that. And so through a miscommunication, she ends up going to a family out on Prince Edward Island in Canada, and they wanted a boy, not a girl, because they needed someone to help in the fields. And instead they got this girl that they end up falling in love with, and they keep her. And so the series chronicles her life through the point of, having married children eventually. But Anne of Green Gables specifically tells her story, her past, her present, and then her becoming a part of Avonlea culture. So it's a really adorable book. There are descriptions of sunsets that are literally 2 pages long. A lot of people get really frustrated by that. I absolutely loved it. My grandparents, they give me a lot of books, sorry. My grandmother was a teacher, and she gave me Anne of Green Gables when I was 7 years old to read as a paperback. It was hers, but I could borrow it. And then for my baptism gift from my parents, they gave me a hardbound edition that I still have up on the bookshelf, hiding behind us. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Now, a quick story about the Anne of Green Gables. When we were in Salinas, we were, I was younger, obviously, and we were playing games or something. We had the Brown brothers over, and I believe Tony was over and stuff. My mom had that movie playing, Anne of Green Gables, and we were going to go roll dice, and we were just going to be hanging out and stuff. We started watching that, and it is like how long is that show? I mean, it's like a 6-hour show.
4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
long.
we all sat there and watched the whole thing.
Well, it's like a 400-page book,
Yeah.
300 something.
Because
You got
it's
it.
they did a wonderful job with the adaptation on that.
They
And,
really, it's one of the best book to movie things you will ever see.
It was fantastic. So that was a good plug, because that's a good choice.
It's such a
It's
good choice.
Okay, so my second favorite book is the C.S. Lewis Screwtape Letters. This book is the most quotable book I have ever seen in my life. You can quote this, pretty much there's a quote on every page that relates to life, religion, righteousness. The story is about a demon who's having a correspondence with his underling, and they write back and forth telling how to get their human to fall. And they just share, the secrets of the trade back and forth. The underlings like, help me out here. And it is awesome because there are so many truths spoken in that. Mm-hmm. And have you read it yet?
Don't believe so.
Slacker.
For shame, it's right there.
One of the best books, second best book in my history of my life. Yeah. Absolutely love it. So if you have not read Screwtape Letters, please get it, read it. It is amazing. Fantastic book. Now we're on to number 1.
That was really ominous. Alright, so my number 1 is Jeffrey Deaver's Bone Collector. It's the first in the Lincoln Rhyme series. It's about a former police detective who ran into a burning building to save someone, and a beam in the building comes down and breaks his spine. He becomes paralyzed from the neck down and can only use his ring finger, and he just sits at home with his, you might call him butler, but just his, hospice care guy, and he just kind of withdraws from the world because he doesn't know what to do with himself now. He was instrumental in getting their databases and things of soil and different carpet fibers and things like that, so that if they find evidence, they can put it in and find it and know exactly where to go to catch the bad guy. And now he has his mind, but he's not capable of using it. Then it goes to a young beat cop, Amelia Sachs, and she crosses paths with Lincoln Rhyme, and they strike up a friendship, and she becomes his eyes and ears and everything on the ground, and he helps her hone her skills with his to where they're able to catch villains that kind of have the level of, evil behind them that, kind of like a Sherlock Holmes villain. It builds up to that in each book, and then not only do they catch the bad guy and everything, but then they'll sometimes even explain to the guy, how they caught him, because the villains are so meticulous. I think it's every 3rd or 4th chapter in some books, it'll actually go to the villain's point of view, and it'll be them inside their head trying to evade Rhyme and Sachs and figure out how they can beat them this time. And every time it's, well, okay, not every time, because there's a couple that are able to get away, but most of the time they get them because of the simplest things. They plan for this extravagant plan, and then they let it all fall because they don't think that Rhyme would go after that piece of evidence. But because he does, and he has all that information in his head, he catches them. And yeah, it was...
Well, and there's also incredibly detailed descriptions of the forensic science that Rhymes is using and teaching to Sachs.
Yeah.
And how they catch them. And the first villain is the Bone Collector, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. He takes bones.
They're super villains, okay, guys? They're
they are super villains.
They're hideously evil,
twisted, psycho, but yeah, it's in the name, Bone Collector. I'll let you figure that out.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
I'm up.
You're number 1.
Can I mock you?
You may mock me.
Alright, so I have been trying to get my best friend, now my husband, yes, in that order, not, I married my best friend. No, really, he was my best friend for years. I've been trying to get him to read this book for years.
And it's right over there. Shame!
We have...
I will do it.
3 physical copies of the book and 2 digital copies of the book. And an audio file.
That's 6!
And he still has not read it. Anyway.
But I will.
We'll read it together. I love this book. So it is children's literature again. It is a very simple read, but it's fun. It is Fablehaven by Brandon Mull. I absolutely adore the series. There's now a spin-off series, Dragon Watch, and the 3rd book comes out in a couple months, and I'm sure that with COVID-19
is it 4th?
Stuff...
Is it
4th book? Sorry, my bad. Yes, Is it the 4th? I know, it's a lot of books.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And you guys did go to the
Well, I was going to say, we got to go to the book launch party last year with Tucker's friend Kyler. You guys have met him in previous videos. And I don't think that will be happening this year because it was quite the crowd.
Yeah.
But Fablehaven tells the story of Seth and Kendra, brother and sister, who go to visit their grandparents, and not knowing that their grandparents are caretakers of a magical preserve. So there's repeller spells and charms that keep people away if they get too close to the boundary of one of these hidden preserves. They just get lost, change direction, their GPS fails, whatever it is. They don't realize that it's actually a magical spell keeping them away. But these preserves are in all locations around the world, and they protect magical creatures. So from teeny tiny little brownies and nipsies all the way up to, cloud giants and the king of dragons.
Centaurs.
Centaurs, yeah. I was going for big. Bigger than the centaurs. Anyway, and one of the reasons I think that it would be interesting for John to read this one is, having played Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder for so many decades, a lot of the lore and characteristics of the... you old. Anyway, he's already familiar with the species that they come across in the books. There's very few that I think will be new to him, if any. So, being that he does have short-term memory issues, he doesn't have to learn about the creatures themselves. It would just be following the characters and the adventures and misadventures, thank you, annoying little brother Seth, that they go on throughout the books. They're easy reads, they're very captivating, and they're colorful. Not pictures. There are no illustrations.
No.
I take that back. I am so sorry. There are pen and ink drawings in the books.
They're very well done.
They are.
Don't remember who does them, but you do awesome.
Yeah, and let me just say, you really come to love Newell and Doran, and you'll find out who they are, but most of the time you kind of want to hit them with your car. I'll mostly admit that. But Fablehaven by Brandon Mull, my absolute favorite book. I think I've read it 4 times, maybe 5, in trying to get it started with my kids when they were learning to read and graduating into longer chapter books. And then I'd be all kinds of interested in it and keep reading. And then I've read the entire Fablehaven series through twice, and now Dragon Watch each book twice. So, yeah.
Just a few of his
You gotta
books.
read it, man.
I will read it. I commit here on video to reading it before I die.
Jonathan Matthew, can you commit to reading it before Christmas?
Before
This
I
year?
die.
Christmas this year?
No, but before I die.
You gon' die. Would you please just read the book?
Okay, my number 1 book. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice.
Don't get all prideful now.
Now, the reason I chose this book is because A, it's captivating. Jane Austen's writing is absolutely fantastic. It is wonderful. It is witty. It is just mind-blowing how amazing of a writer she was. The story's good, but the dialogue she has in it, she is the master of dialogue and humor and just...
Banter.
Oh,
She can do banter better than anyone.
She can, and...
Do you ever feel like Lizzie or Elizabeth Bennet is really her personality just coming through? That fighting against the norms of her gender of the time?
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah.
That's how she would be.
Yeah.
Just an amazing book. And it's funny because when I was in school, when we read this book, the teacher really went off on it. Was like, this is the great book, this is awesome. Even said that in the English society, whatever they are, I guess they're a secret society or something. But no, there's this, the English bigwigs tout this as the greatest book written in the English language. And I can't argue that. Because I can't think of a better book written in the English language. I just can't.
It's an amazing book.
It is fantastic. And Jane Austen is just amazing. I wish that, she could have lived forever. That way she could just keep writing. Because she's done some amazing, amazing books.
But your hands would really, really hurt.
Yeah, her hands would be old and writing. And,
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my favorite book. And it is fantastic. If you agree with our picks, cool, say cool. If you disagree, tell us why and tell us what yours are. If you think you got ones that are better than ours, which you don't, go ahead and tell us.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you want to see this one, wider screen than what social media might allow, you can always go pull up John on YouTube, subscribe, click the thumbs up, ring the bell for notifications, and then you'll always know when he's posting another video.
I'll post a bunch of videos, man.
Well, I'm just saying the next time.
Yeah, I'll do a bunch.
Thank you.
I'll just make a bunch of stupid videos. Wait,
Wait.
we
hey,
just did!
we did that.
All right, thanks for watching. Have a good day.
Goodbye.